The Prophet ﷺ, he says that a grave, it all calls out to a person 5 times every day. Even though me and you don't think about the grave it thinks of you and it calls out to you 5 times every day. Listen to this story about Sayyidina Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu. A very, very pious man. And just think, what does the grave say to you? Hazrat Sayyidina Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu Abdullah bin Abdul Aziz, Umar bin Abdul Aziz radiallahu ta'ala anhu. He went once with a funeral to the graveyard. And he sat by a newly dug grave. And his companions, his friends, they came up to him and they said, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, he was the Khalifa of that time. They came up to him and they said, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, why are you sat next to this grave? And Hazrat Sayyidina Umar bin Abdul Aziz radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he says that this grave called out to me. This grave called me. And this grave, he said to me, Oh Umar, why don't you ask me what I do to the people when they come inside me? So my dear Islam brothers, listen carefully. What the grave does to a person when we bury him inside the grave. We must have buried so many people with our own hands. We read the funeral prayer, we took them to the graveyard, we buried them in the grave, and then we say Fatiha and we come back home. But what happens inside the grave? Listen to what the grave said to Umar bin Abdul Aziz radiallahu ta'ala anhu. The grave, he said, when a person comes inside me, I rip off his shroud and then rip the person's body to pieces and I eat his meat. Are you not going to ask me what I do with the joints? I said, tell me. And the grave said, I separate the hands from the wrist, the knees from the calves, and the calves from the feet. After saying this, Sayyidina Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he began to cry. When he radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he stopped crying, he said, my dear brothers, we are to live in this world for a short period. Those who are sinners in this world and still hold high status will be disgraced on the hereafter. Those who are envied in this world because of their wealth will be hated in the hereafter due to their actions. The one who is young will grow old, and the one who is alive will die. This world will deceive you because you are aware that it will soon depart from you. Where are those individuals who recited the Quran? Where are those who went to the house of Allah to perform Hajj? Where are those who fasted in the month of Ramadan? What did the earth do with their bodies? What did the insects of the grave do to their flesh? What happened to their bones? I swear in the name of Allah, in the world they slept on comfortable beds. But now they have been left behind from their families. Their wives have remarried. Their children are suffering in the streets. And their families have shared their inheritance amongst themselves. Amongst those are the fortunate people who are successful in their graves. And we learn from the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ that the grave is either a garden from paradise or a hole from hell. It is up to us. It is entirely up to us. What kind of destination do we want? What kind of grave we want? It is up to us. We are the builders. We are going to build our house in the grave. It's up to us. And how do you build your house? You don't need no sun. You don't need nothing. You need good actions. And if you don't have good actions, my dear Islamic brothers, then there is something to worry about. Listen to a shroud thief. He used to steal kaffans, shrouds from dead bodies. And once he came to Sayyidina Hasan Basri radiallahu ta'ala anhu, and he repented on his hands. And he told a few stories about what he found inside the grave. My dear Islamic brothers, we've been to the graveyard. We've said Fatiha, we read the funeral prayer, but it looks so calm. Everything is so calm, there's not even a voice, but there is something going on inside the grave. This shroud thief, he said to Hazrat Sayyidina Hasan Basri radiallahu ta'ala anhu, that once when I dug a grave, I saw a heart-trembling scene. I saw a person whose face had become black. His hands and feet were tied with chains of fire, and there was pus and blood coming out of his mouth. As well as this, there was an extremely bad smell. I was about to run away when the dead person, suddenly he spoke and he said, "Why do you run away? Stay here and listen to why I have received this punishment." Now you might be thinking to yourself, he's dead. Well, how is he speaking? How is he calling to that person? But my dear Islamic brothers, the Prophet ﷺ, he says that when a person dies, and this is the hadith, when a person dies, his soul is put back into his body. And he sees those people who are bathing him, who are giving him ghusl. He sees and he recognizes those people who read their funeral prayer. He recognizes those people who carry his body to the graveyard. And he calls out to these people. But apart from the humans and the jinns, every single creature can hear their voice. Now what did he see? He says that this dead man, he said to him, "Ask me, or listen to me, why I am being punished inside the grave." And he says, when I heard this, that man, he says, when I heard this, I decided to wait and listen. I gathered all my strength and went near the grave. When I looked inside the grave, I saw that the angels of punishment had tied a chain of fire around his neck. I asked the dead man, "Who are you?" And he replied, "I am a Muslim and son of a Muslim. Yet unfortunately, I used to drink alcohol and commit adultery. I died in this state and now I am stuck in this punishment." The shroud thief then continued his story. So that was the first grave he tried to steal the coffin of that person. And that dead person, why was he being punished? Because he used to drink alcohol, he used to drink sharab, he used to drink beer. And the other thing, he used to commit adultery. And sadly, these two things which are haram, we know they are haram. Yet very, my dear Islam brothers, few communities or few towns, you will see that this thing is increasing. Muslims are increasing in drinking sharab, Muslims are increasing in committing adultery. The shroud thief, he says that after that, I went to another grave to steal the coffin. Another time when I opened the grave, he says, I saw a black person who stood up with his tongue hanging out. He was surrounded by flames. The angels were standing with chains around his neck. When this person saw me, he cried out, "Brother, I am extremely thirsty. Please give me some water to drink." The angel said to me, "Beware, this person did not perform his salah. Don't give him any water." I gathered my strength and I asked that dead person, "Who are you? And what was your sin? Why are you being punished inside the grave?" And he replied, "I was a Muslim. However, unfortunately, I had disobeyed Allah many times. And like me, there are many sinners who are trapped in the same punishment in their grave." He says that again. Once I opened a grave and noticed a most amazing scene. So sometimes, according to the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, the grave could either be a hole from hell, as we've heard from these two incidents. And sometimes the grave could be a garden of paradise. This coffin thief, he says that once I opened the grave and noticed a most amazing scene. The grave was extremely spacious and there was a beautiful garden inside the grave. There were many streams flowing inside the garden, and there was a young man in the garden who was enjoying all of this. I asked the young man, "What actions did you perform for which you are receiving this reward?" He replied, "I once heard a speaker, a Mubaligh, say that whoever offers 6 rak'at of nafl salah on the day of Ashura, the 10th of Muharram, he would be forgiven. Therefore, every year I used to perform these 6 rak'at nafl salah on the day of Ashura." SubhanAllah. Now you see that someone who obeys Allah Azza wa Jal, who obeys the commands of Allah Azza wa Jal, his grave will be a garden of paradise. And my dear Islam brothers, like I said before, it is up to us. And many times I've repeated this, that there is no compulsion in religion. You can't force anyone to do anything. La ikraha fi deen. If anyone wants to act upon the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, if he wants to read his salah, his namaz, no one can stop him. But if that person, he decides that he doesn't want to read his namaz. That person, he decides that he wants to chill out in his life. He's got many years left. If that person decides to do that, it is entirely up to him. No one can force him and no one can do anything to him. But my dear Islam brothers, we've just heard what the consequences could be.